Today we'll be taking the old Jordan Schultz route, and we're going to take a swing at these rookies. Yo! What's happening, everybody? Too much fantasy football coming at you right after the combine. It is post-hype right here. We got the winners, we got the losers, and of course, your favorite winners right here. It's Too Much Brian, it's Brennan. How are we doing today, man?
Yeah, we're doing better than Jordan Schultz and Ian Rappaport, I guess.
Dude, we got there hours after all that fun happened there at the Starbucks in Indianapolis. Brennan and I are fresh off the plane. We got to break down our reactions from everything we saw, whether it be the media room or there in the stadium itself. But yeah, great time there, man.
No, actually, it was a fun time. Like, it's definitely something that I never thought I'd experience. So thank you, NFL, for inviting us for going. But yeah, that Jordan Schultz situation is just so awkward, and it's all because of a Matthew Stafford tweet. That's just the most funniest thing out of all of this.
All right. Oh man, too much fun. Well, folks, today we're going to be talking about the winners. We're going to talk about some losers, but wow. Free agency hasn't kicked off yet. We're a mere week away before the tampering period begins, and we got some news for you. So let's jump right into it. Here we go, the news report. Starting off, Tee Higgins, the biggest one, probably the favorite name for free agency. Tagged 2 years in a row, he's gone. Give it to me, Brian. This is great for fantasy, isn't it?
I mean, he's tied with Joe Burrow as it sits right now. Obviously, I think you and I both are under the assumption that unless he gets the contract that he wants, he's going to sit out for all of training camp. And it's just going to be a lingering thing where it's like, man, it's going to be that situation of like, do you really want to take him with him, threatening to sit out? I don't know how soon they'll get it resolved. Like, it's just, as it sits right now, I like that he's with Joe Burrow. I think, we know what we get out of him when he's with him. So it's just still a lingering situation.
100%. Now they're going to have until July 15th to get a long-term deal done. If not, like you said, he'll go into the year under the tag, probably sit out most of August. And this is a guy that naturally gets hurt anyway, so maybe sitting out would be good, less chance of it getting hurt. But we've also seen the research in there that guys that sit out at the beginning of August takes them a little bit to get acclimated. Sometimes there's more injuries because they're not ready for that full speed game. So tons of questions with T. Can't wait to see that. He's probably going to be going, wide receiver 10 to 15, somewhere in there?
Yeah, probably in the back end of 15 now, just because everyone's going to be scared of this franchise tag.
Right. Next up, Matt Stafford. We heard rumors. The wife hopped on the podcast. She said maybe we're looking to greener pastures. His buddy Cooper Kupp's, he's presumably gone, but Stafford's staying. Raiders and the Giants both were looking to make a move for him, but a deal will be signed. We haven't gotten the exact numbers as of this time of this recording, but what do you think about Stafford staying in L.A.?
Great for Puka. Great for everybody else. I mean, Stafford is still... When you think of guys you'd want as on a top 10 level, he's still that. He's just not putting up fantasy numbers wise, but it's great for Puka at the end of the day. It's great for the guys around him. So I'm happy he's staying still. He's still tied to McVay. It would have been interesting if he went to the Giants with Malik Neighbors and maybe Brock Bowers to the Raiders, but ultimately I think it's better he stays put in Los Angeles.
And I think this puts Puka in essentially that top 5, top 6 wide receiver spot, and we don't have to have a debate. Even if probably Sam Darnold would probably be the best situation that if he went there, if Stafford was gone, I think there would still be an asterisk you'd have to put at him. He would probably be in that next tier down just because of the question marks that would arise.
I guess my question to you is that now with him staying there, are you taking Puka before CD or vice versa?
I don't think I have a preference. I think they're going to be in about the same tier.
Okay.
Devontae Adams, it looks like the Jets are looking for a trade candidate for him. He's holding, I believe it's a $36 million, maybe it's only $31 million cap hit next year. So it looks like he will be cut if he cannot be traded, which he's probably following Aaron, right?
Yeah, I really kind of hope he doesn't follow Aaron. Honestly, where it'd be a really good spot?
The Packers.
Yeah.
Go back home, dude. Go back home,
man. They need a legit X guy. I'm sure they'd welcome you back with open arms. Another spot that makes sense, obviously, we talked about it before here, is the Chargers. They need another guy. They need somebody on the opposite side of Ladd. So,
yeah. Am I drooling? A trade that has happened, he got pulled the trigger of. It's Deebo. He finally got moved. We've been hearing this talk for quite a bit. Last summer there were rumors, but the Commanders making a move, adding to their wide receiver depth chart, which only had Luke McCaffrey and Terry McLaurin on it. So now they're putting Deebo back there. Is he still worth something? Is he going to be more of a use to the NFL team itself, the Commanders, or is he going to be useful in fantasy football?
I like this move for him, man. Like I think him and Cliff, I think it's a good match. I think they'll use him more in that like RPO motion what he was originally with Shanahan. I he's kind of like I think I texted you this earlier, right when this happened. I said like if I punt on like wide receiver, I think that him being a wide receiver too is that risk reward where it's like man it could really pan out or it's really going to shoot you in the kneecap. So I'm kind of in that Fritz right now with him.
Yeah, I think he's going to be closer to a wide receiver 3 for me, somewhere in there.
Yeah.
Maybe even a back end wide receiver 3, but I think he will post good numbers. But I think he's
Yes.
going to be a lot more boom bust than he ever has. If anything, this just moves the needle more for Jaden Daniels. This is amazing
Yes.
for Jaden Daniels.
Yeah, I agree.
And then Brandon Ayuk, the other wide receiver or big name wide receiver for the San Francisco 49ers, is on the trade block as well. Less than a year since he signed his extension.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I wonder if they're trying to just like, clear everything out and just kind of maybe rebuild. I don't know what San Fran's doing over there. Because Brock Purdy's going to command a big payday. Like, I mean, we're talking 55 million plus.
Bosa's coming up as well.
Bosa's coming up for his extension again. Yeah, I don't know what they're trying to do over there, but like all this is telling me is that Ricky Pearsall is going to be his stock is completely rising. I'm probably taking like everyone loves Juwan Jennings, but like it's Ricky Pearsall for me over a lot of those guys.
I'm very excited. Brent and I knocked out a best ball draft little board and some intermission at the combine, and there was definitely some drafting of Ricky Pearsall.
Yeah.
More rumors for trades. It looks like DK. The rumors are really starting to stir as we see free agency really clearing out. Chris Godwin, who is rumored to be potentially re-signing with the Bucks, might take away the last big piece from there. So DK Metcalf, we've seen Packers rumors and Patriots rumors as well. Both teams really kicking the tires to see if he could make it onto their team.
Yeah, I think the Packers would, and they said the Packers would be willing to deal their first round pick for DK. So like the 23rd overall pick, I think it makes it really enticing for Seattle if they're trying to do this whole like revamp thing. I mean, JSN's great. They probably would like to move on and clear some cap out of it. So I think that'd be a good trade for both sides.
And DK and Jaden Reed complement very well. Like those are they do the things that each other do not. The others do not.
Yeah.
And last little bit of trade rumor news is Michael Mayer. Of course, you kind of had to see it coming. The second round pick 2 years ago, but they took Brock Bowers this past year in the first round. He is their future at the tight end room. I don't know why they don't keep both. They really don't have a lot of receiving threats, so I don't think it's a terrible idea, but the identity of the team, it looks like they're okay with moving on. So who knows? I'd love to see him with the Colts. So I think he could be a top 12, top 15 easily tight end, no matter where he goes. Just the talent.
I mean, anybody can sneak up in the top 12, top 15 tight end, unfortunately. But yeah, no, I think if he goes to the right situation, it'd be great. I think they'd like to probably get like a third, fourth round pick out of him. So yeah, I mean, this is great for Brock Bowers. It means, less vulturing of his targets, but I'm sure that it was never going to be a threat in the first place. So
right. It does take away our handcuff. Now you can't handcuff Brock Bowers, unfortunately.
Yeah, that's true.
Damn, that's what you want to do with your star players, right? You got to handcuff them. All right, folks, getting out of the news here. Let's jump into the nitty gritty. What you came here for. Let's talk about some winners. Let's talk about some losers because it is almost draft time, folks. We're going to hear that magical little noise pop up, and we're ready. Matthew Golden
Christmas.
It's kind of Christmassy, not quite, but Matthew Golden, though, this is the stud of studs, I feel like, coming out of the combine as far as what fantasy needs to know. This guy absolutely crushed it on the 40. His buddy, his teammate from the Texans, was supposed to be Mr. Hotshot on the 40. Nope, Matthew Golden comes away with it.
I think Matthew Golden obviously having the fastest 40 time, and then immediately the tweets came out saying he's legitimately could be the first wide receiver off the board. Is just hand in hand. If Al Davis was alive, this would be absolutely 100% true. But I think he did well the combine. We got to see him live in person. He ran that 140 and that was it. But yeah, no, his stock definitely boosted up. So I think he'll be a potential late first, early second round pick, and I'd like to see where he goes.
Yeah, I agree. I think we're talking. I think the over under is like 4.5. First round wide receivers right now in the sports books. So I would, if I was a betting man, I'd put him in that group of four that
Yeah.
potentially could go. He ran a 4.29 for reference. Worthy set the record last year with a 4.21, so not
Hmm.
far off. Clearly, this Texas guys, there's something down in the water there. And it's not just the tequila; it is something that's added to the speed. So Matthew Golden, extremely excited for what he can bring to the fantasy world.
Yeah.
Next up, give me another winner.
Next one we have is someone we got to interview. It's Omarion Hampton. When me and Brian first saw him, we thought he was a linebacker defensive end because he is a massive human being. No, he's a running back. Super nice guy. Was able to answer our questions. But yeah, his stock definitely boosted up. He ran a solid 40 time. He showed off his receiving skills, which was really underrated for the most part. Now everyone got to see it on display. Um, there's legitimate talks that if this wasn't Ashton Genty, he'd be the first running back off the board, and I think he will be the second running back off the board. And there's potential for him to be in that first round because running backs' values are now back up.
Yeah, I think if we see a team grab Genty in the top 12 ish, I think that Genty will go first. But if these running backs slide past like 15, 16, I'm not going to be surprised at all if Omarion Hampton's going to be the first one off the board. Just an incredible athlete.
Hey Brian, what was the answer that they all want to be paired with? Who was the running back they all want to be paired with?
Yeah, the amount of questions that were flying at these guys left and right. Brennan and I were asking them, hey, if you had to be paired with a running back, who would it be? And the ones that actually gave us an answer instead of that, like, oh, no, I'm good, I can do it by myself. I'm like, no, give us a comp. Joe Mixon was the
Yep.
majority of the comps that we heard.
Every single guy said Joe Mixon except for one. The other guy, the dude from Auburn said Josh Jacobs, but all of them said Joe Mixon.
Which is that they actually think the skill sets works, or do they want to go to Texas? Do they want to go play
Yeah.
with CJ?
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to loop them together, so we'll go separate here. But I want to talk about these Ohio State running backs. I feel like both of them did themselves justice out there. They both, I mean, they're different type of backs, but they went out there and crushed it. TreVeon Henderson, I think, was my favorite. As soon as it came out of my mouth, though, I might be switching. But TreVeon Henderson was just, again, another guy great at the podium. Loved listening to his the way he was talking, but also just out there on the field, just looks so good.
Yeah, no, he was super nice guy. Was able to answer some of the questions we had as well. Yeah, I think a lot of his question marks though are just durability. He's missed some time at Ohio State, but he tested very, very well there. So I think we won't be surprised if him or Judkins get taken before one another because these guys are just two different backs in general. But his stock definitely rose. I think he will be. I wonder if teams will use him more on that receiving end game instead of a like typical proto. Like he said, he wants to be a 3-down back, but I just don't know if NFL teams value him that way.
Yeah, I feel like he might get more of kind of how Jahmyr Gibbs's career's gone so far, and put him in that sort of backfield. You're going to have another guy that gets in rotation. Maybe not quite as much of a 50-50 split. I feel like he could be more of a 60-65% guy, but yeah, I think he's going to need a nice compliment back. Najee
Yeah,
Harris, if he signs somewhere in a bad situation, I think TreVeon Henderson would compliment him really well.
yeah, I agree.
Give me somebody else. Who you got?
Next guy that did really really well. I mean, he probably solidified himself as the QB3 of his draft. It's Jaxson Dart. We got to watch him throw in person compared to the other guys, and it was a night and day between him and the other 7 to 8 quarterbacks that were throwing. He was clearly the best one out of the group. And me and Brian both said the same thing. Dude's got arm power, but his like throwing motion is just very weird. He throws all arm, nothing with his legs, but it works, I guess. I don't know if that's something they'll tinker with or not, but Jaxson Dart is the QB3 in this draft class. So be very curious to see where he ends up in the draft. Like if he's like a second round pick or a third round pick, but he's definitely QB3.
And I think he might potentially where he lands in his draft capital. I think he could be QB1 in fantasy football just because of what he gives you with his legs. The other two guys can move, they can run if they need to, but this is the athlete of the three. So I think Jaxson Dart, like it's all going to be about draft capital where he goes, but I think he could be the most valuable quarterback at the end of the day.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, we're gonna be. I don't know where this guy is going to be going in the draft at this point. We're going to talk a little bit about this running back at Virginia Tech, Bashal Tutin. the guy that had the fastest 40 time for all the running backs. Absolutely crushed it. If you look at the RAS, the relative athletic score that comes out on a lot of these players, scored a 9.73 out of 10. It's a pretty good score. It's pretty close to 10. This guy, I don't know. Again, this is another one that can't run a backfield by himself, but I think his draft stock went up enough that we're going to be talking about him come rookie draft time.
Yeah, like when you watched him do the drills, he looked really fluid. There was nothing. There didn't seem like a ton of holes in his game, so I definitely think he's going to be a 1A to somebody's 1B in this draft or for wherever he goes. But yeah, I'll be very curious to see like how because he projected at like a fifth, sixth rounder. I bet you now he's more closer towards like a fourth round pick. So sometimes this combine can help you out, and I think it definitely helped him out for sure.
Yeah, if he somehow finds his way into a day 2 pick in that round 3, I think that's going to drastically jump him up. But I still think he's going to be a day 3 pick, but probably just closer to 4 than he is 7 now.
Yeah. Next guy we're going to talk about was the counterpart to TreVeon Henderson, Quinshon Judkins. He had a really good combine, tested well in every aspect possible. Again, we won't be surprised if he gets taken before TreVeon Henderson. This dude looked a bit and was a complete back all the way through. Was able to catch everything. Was able to run crisp and clean. So yeah, I'm really curious to see who goes first out of the two.
I think it's going to come down to team dependent. I don't know if there actually is truly a this one's better, this one's worse situation. I think it's all about where they land and how that works. It will be interesting to note, though, here on the running back 40 times. This is the fastest group of running backs we've ever had hit the combine. They averaged a 4.48 for the entire class, and yeah, highest that we've ever seen from the running back class. So even though we had some of our thicker guys that we know they're not speed guys, they still contributed to just enough where we're looking at just blazing speed across this thing. And how many are you going to be leaving your rookie, like your redraft drafts with what, 3-4 rookies? Like possibly at least running backs.
Oh yeah, I mean this is a very deep class. I wouldn't be surprised if you have in your first 2 picks, your first round, second round, they're all running backs because this wide receiver class is good but not amazing. So
for sure. All right, running backs are getting a lot of love. Let's bring in some more wide receivers here. Which one do you want to talk about?
I would like to say, for me, we have Luther Burden for sure. He tested well. He looked the part. I know his numbers from the year before were great, but they weren't as well this year. But I think it had more to do with quarterback play, with just, overall concept and routes from Missouri. But I think he definitely had a chance. I think we don't really know who's going to be the first wide receiver off the board out of this class. But I think Luther Burden has a chance to be the first one off the board just because he tested very well. He only ran 140 time. It was a 4.4. I think it was a 4.39 or 4.4. 4.41, and he stopped. And that's a great time. So he was like, all right, I'm good to go.
His over-under, folks, was 4.42. So Brennan and I were sweating if he went back out there.
Yeah, we were.
Oh, man, wild stuff. But yeah, great. I was pretty positive on Burden. I know there are some downers on him, maybe not quite what you wanted, but this guy absolutely crushes in man coverage. Kind of a Brandon Ayuk-esque style of play is what I would kind of put it on, but I'm really excited about him.
Yeah.
And then finally, the last one I want to bring up is Jalen Noel, another guy that went out there and played really well. His 40 time is a 4.39. One of those guys, those sub 4.4 guys. I think this is probably going to be like a borderline day 2 pick, but who knows? I mean, these draft stock of these guys are moving up, so maybe he does get in there. But another one of those wide receivers, at least for Dynasty, I'm really excited about getting a little later.
Yeah, I agree. And then finally, a guy we didn't expect to have on our boards move up drastically, but me and Brian went and were waiting. We were for the tight ends. Tyler Warren and Loveland both decided to opt out, which can't be mad at them. We were pretty bummed, so we ended up sticking around and watching. But there's one guy that stood out among everybody else. It was Terrence Ferguson. Terrence Ferguson had the fastest 40 time, and you watch him do all the drills, the gauntlet, everything. He was the cleanest and smoothest, and I think a lot of people now have him as tight end 3, and he's definitely tight end 3 for us. So.
Oh, wait, I don't know about that. I might no, folks. We'll talk about him in the losers, but the guy I was rooting for just he didn't come through for us. So Ferguson is a player I need to look more into. I barely even knew his name coming into the combine, but he's definitely being talked about. Very athletic guy, and that's all you need from these players is, or at least the tight ends, is athleticism.
Yeah.
All right, locked up and loaded. Let's talk some losers here. I mean, Isaiah Bond, did he really lose? He might not fall into the first round because of this, but he still went out there and performed pretty well.
Yeah, he did very, very well. It's just I think a lot of people put him as a loser, and I don't know if we should. I think we just put him as like the neutral, but he said he was gonna run a 4.1, which like obviously we didn't think that. Like we were all of us sitting in the media section were kind of like laughing once he ran like a 4.4, what was it, 4.45 or something like that.
He finished with a 4.39, but he was over 4.4 initially. I think it was
Yeah.
4.41.
Yeah, so I mean, still 4.39 is really good. It's nothing to scoff at. He's a really good route runner. He caught all the passes that were thrown his way for the majority of them for the drills.
His
So
gauntlet looked really good. He was way faster in the game speed than he was actually in that 40 record, which is a fair thing. Some of these
yeah,
guys that have no track background, there's a lot of technique that plays into the 40. There's guys that get better 40 times because they're good at the technique and not as
hmm,
actually fast as they perform. So you have to take
yeah,
this with a grain of salt. This is just another metric we use, but it's just more funny because he ran his mouth and said he was going to get break the record. All right, who else do we have on this list?
yeah. I mean, we were sitting there watching him throw. It's Will Howard. Every time he went up to go throw, it was met with a bunch of cheers and a bunch of boos. Obviously, with Indiana being there. But he was very inaccurate for the most part. It was a coin flip for each pass he had. So I mean, I didn't think he was going to be maybe a day 3 pick, but I don't know if he will be now. I don't know. He needs a lot of fixing, and I just don't think NFL want to take the chance on that in the draft.
I'm right there with you. I don't. I think he'll get drafted. There were 4 or 5 of these quarterbacks outside of Jaxson Dart that just every now and then they're like, "Oh, that's a pretty good throw," and then the next year you're like, "Wow, what happened there?"
Yeah,
And I mean, the fans let them know. The Ohio State fans were unfortunately ramping them up a little too much at the beginning to the point that Indiana reacted. And oh god, you feel bad for the kid. He's out there in a job
yeah,
interview and he's getting booed just because I feel like the fans were more booing Ohio State fans than actually him. But yeah, I think this will be a day 3 pick, maybe 6th, 7th round draft capital, might go undrafted. But as far as
yeah.
fantasy goes, no.
Hmm.
Tez Johnson, man, another one of these speedy players that just did not get it done. He should have ran significantly faster than he did. And
Such an
yeah,
anomaly too, because like I mean, first off, well, I wouldn't like he's a loser. Just one, he's the lightest player out there, 156 pounds, I think.
hmm
Did have a fast 40 time, but was fastest when it came to running like miles per hour wise. It was really weird. Like on a straight line, he's clearly one of the fastest guys out there, but like when it came to the 40-yard dash, it wasn't up there.
he ran a 4.51. If the guys are sub 4.4, those are the really fast ones. So even the fact that he didn't get sub 4.5 was telling. But you look at his legs, I don't think he has muscles. I saw bones, skin, and maybe a few ligaments, but like I don't actually know if there were muscle on his legs. Skinny fella, skinny fella. So
Yeah.
it'll be interesting. Tank Dell is going to be what you're going to kind of comp him to as far as like physicality. Just like that's the build they have. So hopefully he can withstand it. I hope his NFL career is long and exciting, but he's dropped a bit for me.
Yeah. My next guy,
Oh
who
boy.
is someone I was still on the fritz about. I just was like, everyone's like, oh, he's for sure tight end 3. And I was like, I even said it on the podcast before. I was like, watch his tape. And it's like, oh, he looks okay. Harold Fannin did not do well at the combine. He did so bad. We watched the 40-yard dash. We were like, oh, he's slow off the get off. And then he did it a second time, and he was still slow off the get off. Like, yeah, he did not perform well. And I don't know if he'll be the tight end 3. I don't even know if he'll be the tight end 4.
I've got him as my tight end 4 at this point behind Ferguson. Again, I think this is another player that is look, when you get above 6'3", I mean, like your hand-eye coordination starts dropping a little bit. Like just the compatibility with the way your body moves, it's a little harder. Okay, he's only 6'3", so a little smaller than I wanted him to be as far as tight end, but I still think he is uber athletic, probably closer to a day 3 NFL draft pick. But this is a guy in a couple of years I'm going to be really excited about to see where he develops.
Yeah, I don't know about that.
Yeah, my turn. I'm going to take one of Brennan's players that he likes so much. I'm going to crap all over him. Dylan Gabriel. Yeah, Brennan's got the fat head up in his room. He's got the posters, the jerseys, loving his boy Dylan Gabriel there. And again, just one of those quarterbacks. He had some good passes every now and then, but just overall, very poor performance. Probably won't get drafted. Maybe at the very end.
What's his height at? I'm just curious because I stood next to him, and I think he says he's 6'1". Very curious what he says his height's at because he's not tall. He is very short.
6 foot.
Yeah, I don't know about that. Yeah, I don't know. He's he might be 5'11" on a good day. Yeah, the arm strength wasn't there, the accuracy wasn't there in the combines, and these were just simple like. And I'm not talking on the deep throws. I'm talking like on the little quick post outs, short routes, the slants over the middle. It just wasn't like accurate, and it was either behind him, over their head. It was just. I'll be very surprised if he gets drafted in like nothing higher than like the 6th round.
Yeah, I agree. I think the 6th. He's like fingers crossed for the 6th round is where.
Yeah, that'd be good. That'd be good for him.
And the last one I've got here really hurts me, folks. I wanted this guy to climb into my RB4. Maybe if I'm absolutely fever dreaming to go for RB3, but he's probably closer to RB8 than he is up in that top area. Ollie Gordon, another great player that I enjoyed talking to, listening to him discuss the running game, but just wasn't impressed with his measurables. I feel like him, Devin Neal, there was a couple of those guys that I'm really excited about that, again, they're not speedsters, and they definitely showed it in their numbers.
Yeah, I think he ran like a 4.6. He's a big back though. He's not tiny by any means.
No,
he's like 6'2". I mean, he's a very tall, lengthy guy. He just didn't catch well, so one that limits him and what he can be in fantasy purposes. So he's definitely a bigger power back. So I definitely think he'll be more of like a goal line, short yardage kind of a back. I don't know if he'll have any use though for fantasy, and I'm very curious to see how much of what round he's drafted and where he goes to.
Yeah, 4.61. It's not an impressive speed, but we've seen Hall of Famers that fall in the 4.6s before. So I don't think his career is obviously gone. I think there's all these possibilities with where he lands a situation like that, but the hype is waned a little bit on him.
Yeah.
All right, man, let's get out of here. That is going to wrap it up for our winners and losers episodes. The biggest highlights. You're looking for more stuff on that, really trying to find some more information. Hit us up on the socials, on the platform. It's at @too_much_Brian or at @too_much_Brian everywhere else. Brennan, where can the people find you?
I'm at X, or I think it changes to Too Much B Milk. Yeah, I think it's Too Much B Milk now. Yeah, so we got to change that.
Too much, folks.
Yeah.
And then, of course, you find him on Facebook because I can't get him off there, folks. I just can't. I don't know why.
Yeah, I got to keep in touch with my boomers.
Yeah, hitting up those bingo games with all their. Folks, we're out of here. We'll see you next time. Later.